in the cold, out in the dark, something's lurking at the edge of the park. People be warned, people beware, there's a storm on the rise and it's covered in hair. Hear him cry, hear him howl, looking for someone to disembowel. Claws like a hook, eyes like coal, feet so big they're gonna crush your soul. They call him Sasquatch.
This is Yowie Central and I'm Sarah. Welcome to the show. Here at Yowie Central, we explore the latest on Yowie research in Australia. We hear Yowie witness testimonies and we talk to the seriously dedicated researchers out there. And because I'm obsessed with anything and everything to do with mysterious phenomena, we dive headfirst into rabbit holes galore. Paranormal encounters, UFOs and aliens, orbs, psychics, and anything else kooky and spooky. Last week, for my 100th show, I asked you lovely listeners who would like a free Yowie Central trucker or baseball cap to send me an email telling me why you enjoy listening to the show. Thank you so much to the lovely people who have sent me emails this week. Stylish Yowie Central caps are on their way to you in the mail. I still have a few left though, so you have until next Wednesday to send me an email with your postal address telling me why you love the show to nab a free cap. For those who are new to the show, I am part of the Australian Yowie research team. And I have the seriously awesome job of interviewing the people who report Yowie sightings to AYR. Today I'm going to share with you a conversation I had for Australian Yowie research last year. AYR is primarily focused on documenting Yowies, but we often get reports that don't quite fit into the typical Yowie description. Amongst those strange cryptid reports, last year we had 2 reports of a goatman-like creature, and we've had strange translucent beings that remind people of the predator in the movie Predator. We've had shapeshifters, and I'm going to bring you one of those conversations in the next few weeks. And we also had a report of a 9-foot-tall, skinny, hairless creature with a cat-shaped head. Yes, a cat-shaped head. I'm going to play you that one today. That same witness also reported seeing a Yowie that disappeared in front of his eyes, like just vanished into thin air. We're heading to the Northern Territory for this story, starting off at Maria Lagoon, and then we're heading to somewhere near Alice Springs. Are you ready? Good.
In late June, I've been travelling up and down the NT for quite some time, doing whatever kind of work was available to me at the time in my Nissan Patrol. And I ended up in going through Borroloola, and actually it was about really late at night and full moon, and I ended up missing Borroloola and getting on the track to Maria Lagoon. And it is one of the most isolated, darkest places I've ever been in my life. But it's a bit of a tourist fishing hotspot. And I rolled in at about 10:30 at night, and I ended up just driving straight through. Everyone was in bed. So I pulled up alongside the lagoon. The lagoon would have been probably 20 to 30 metres to my right, and it goes down a little bit of a 45-degree slope, and you've got some mangroves and eucalyptus along the bank. And I was just looking for a place to set up camp. The dog was in the car, and I had a 1,000 lumen LED torch, and I'd shone it towards north in flow of the lagoon, and I saw these two eyes that are about 8 inches apart, about the size of bigger than golf balls, shining back like a turquoise bright blue, like you see a dog's eyes, basically. There was a gully between us, but I found out that the next day. These eyes were positioned about 4 feet above the ground, so my immediate thought was it's a water buffalo. And I confidently turned and ran to the car because I knew that I had enough gap to be able to safely get to the car. I ran to the car, and out of curiosity, I thought, I'm going to go and see what this thing is. And then I pulled back onto the truck. I drove up, and there was, straight away, I saw the eyes shine again. Now it was about probably 20 meters away. Your immediate reaction is, I'm looking at a human being or I'm looking at a person. There was no abstract, what is this sort of going on in my head. I knew exactly what I was looking at. I was looking at something way bigger than me, physically dominant, would throw me around like a couple of matchsticks. And it started running and ducking between thick eucalyptus scrub, and it was really agile the way it moved. It was ducking its head, weaving underneath branches, ran towards the track, and as soon as I saw that, I reversed back, probably hit a couple of termite mounds. I turned around and I just flat-footed the pedal all the way back to the campground, but I got lost. I ended up diverting off to the right, going up a hill, and then I heard it was in really thick scrub to the left and the right. The scrub's nearly touching the mirrors and the windows of the four-wheel drive. And then I started getting really creeped out. I started hearing a lot of intimidating taps and snaps and all the stuff you hear about. So then I went back to the campsite. Everybody was basically watching the footy, and I just went straight to bed in my hammock. I went back there the next day, and I realised that this gully that I was talking about, it's kind of like where the rain or the tide has washed away a huge chunk of dirt. So it was like a little bit of a cliff, maybe 2 meters of dirt that was between me and this being. And then I thought, the first thing I thought was this thing was actually running around this cliff to actually come and get me.
Right. Lucky you had your car there then, huh?
Yeah. So it was not hesitating. He knew exactly where it was going. As soon as I drove over and I had my high beams on and my torch out the window as well as shining it on this creature. And when I say it had a head like a cat, it didn't have a bulbous head. It didn't have a pointed head. It was extremely human in its anatomy, but its jaw just kind of pointed straight down towards its collarbones, and it had a very long but very wide jaw that seems to be kind of very thin, a little bit like a saucer or a plate. And a picture would be a little bit better to describe it with.
Have you tried sketching it before?
I have, and I reckon I came probably about 60% close to it.
Okay.
I was shaking as I was drawing, so that didn't help. But
feel free to, if you want to sketch it again, or send me a pic of that sketch, so that I can have we can have an idea of what you're describing.
I can email it to you tonight, but it was very opaque. The moon was shining behind it, so I could see some of the light shining off the tree bark, and I knew straight away this thing didn't have hair. It had black skin, thin, very long. It's kind of very, very similar to what you see on rock art in some of the paintings and storybooks from the Indigenous peoples.
So when you first noticed those eyes, how far off the ground did you say they were?
About 4 feet. So it was about. So I knew that I was looking at something that was very huge, very solid, but it wasn't taller than me. So straight away I thought water buffalo. And I'm not familiar with that area of MT. I'm from Central Australia, so I didn't really know what I was looking at. But when I jumped in the car, it got up to about 9 feet. When it was between the eucalyptus scrub and the dirt track, running towards the dirt track. So where it was running was towards west from the lagoon. I thought immediately, oh, it's scared. It was at the lagoon and it's running towards the forest or the thick scrub. But when I went back the next day and I saw the big the dirt cliff and the gully between us, then I thought, no, it was probably coming at me, and it was probably sitting there. I don't know if it was watching curiously, if it was a benevolent creature, or if it had bad intentions, but it was close. It was well, what did I say, 20, 25 meters away, but it was sitting there comfortably. And when I shone the torch on it, I didn't have any gut instinct of danger, so I confidently just ran back to the four-wheel drive.
When you ran back to your car, it was still low to the ground.
Well, I didn't have any light on it. Its skin was so dark that the only thing that reflected back through my 1,000 lumen torch was its eyes, and it was positioned. It was positioned in a fairly dark spot. All I got back was the reflection of its eyes. Mm-hmm. I ran back to the car, got in the car, confidently went, I want to go see a water buffalo. I haven't really seen one before in the wild. So then I drove up, and it had already moved back into the eucalyptus scrub a little bit, but it was standing erect, but it wasn't completely erect. It was ducking, and it was probably a lot taller than I could observe.
Okay. And so you could see
I could see silhouette. I could see the silhouette, and I knew it was, because it was a full moon, or close to a full moon. I remember from the drive-through I saw a lot of dingoes to the left and right of the vehicle, and when I had the high beams on, then I got a very good field of vision from the surrounding environment, and I saw this tall man. I just call him a man because that's what it felt like. It felt like looking at a person, and I could see every movement it made because it was very well lit. But this thing was just a black silhouette.
So you could only see the shape. You couldn't actually see the reflection, like this color of the skin or anything like that. It just all looked black.
It was like matte. Yeah, it was like matte. There was no reflection. It was black. It was black like a shadow, but I could definitely see its anatomy, the way it moved, and the shape of it.
And at that stage, how far away was it?
When I got up to it, I was pretty close. I think I was about between 15 to 20 meters. It had moved back, as I said. It had moved back away again as I ran to the four-wheel drive. So it was a similar distance from when I first saw it, but the speed it was moving at, I wasn't going to take any chances. I reversed over the track and probably hit a few termite mounds, and I just flat-footed it back towards the camp. But as I said, I deviated to a different track into thick scrub, and then I felt very afraid, very mortal.
As you're doing that, so you have your car windows down, and you said you could hear tree snaps and taps. Did you think it was following you?
Yeah, well, my adrenaline was amped, and I didn't see anything. But I definitely remember hearing, like if you had a dingo close to your camp or something, you would bang something to scare it. That's the way I felt. I felt like it had come up and it was telling me to bugger off.
That was the feeling you got.
And just the thuds, the snaps, the taps. I knew that there was something doing it. I knew that it wasn't just running over twigs and bark and stuff.
Okay, so
this is all sand too, by the way. All the track is sand, not quite silt, but a little bit like beach sand.
Yeah, I got you. And so you're driving down another track, and obviously if it's a sandy track, you're not going that fast, are you?
Oh well, flat foot, 4-wheel drive. Look, I can do I was doing about probably 50 to 60. If I'd pushed it any more, then I would have been, hitting embankments and busting up my car. So I wasn't going to do that, but I was doing it at a speed that I thought was going to get me home safely. Yeah, and this thing was just on my tail. It was like, I don't even think, I can't prove it. I mean, I can't say that I saw it chasing me, but the speed I was going at and where I ended up, I could imagine that it was just right on my tail the whole time.
Right, because you could hear those noises.
It was when I realised I was lost. So the track that I turned off on, because the reason why I turned off on the track is I was free camping the whole time I was in Arnhem NT. I was just finding spots and sleeping there with my dog and not leaving rubbish because I was on a bit of a tight budget. So I turned off to the right, which is facing west from Maria Lagoon, and I was going up a little bit up a hill, a little bit rocky, a little bit sandy, and very tight. Not a lot of wide passage between the trees.
So you kept going and it seemed to fall back and then not be following you anymore.
Well, I can't say that I knew it was following me. I mean, all I know is that I felt intimidated. I was hearing snaps, thuds, and things hitting a tree, like as if it had picked up maybe a 40 millimeter thickness branch and it was hitting trees with it. A bit like if you were, knocking. So it was very deliberate. Sounded like a very deliberate action. So it was a form of communication in my mind.
And what gave you the feeling, like what you reckon it was hairless, so you could see like smooth outline of the shoulders and the
Yep.
arms?
Yep. So it was very thin, but if you imagine like an Olympic hurdler or pole vaulter, very good girth in the shoulders and very broad traps, but it was very thin. Like I'm 75 kilos, but I'm very solid, and it would have had arms the same thickness as mine.
Okay.
But I couldn't see any hair, and I knew that it didn't have hair because I had my high beams on it. It was between 15 and 25 metres away, and I could see all the bush and the scrub surrounding it. I also had my flashlight on it, and all I could see back was its turquoise blue eyes reflecting back at me.
Right. Okay. And that colour, so that turquoise, you're talking like the sea from somewhere tropical, that kind of turquoise?
Yeah, well, I assume that all dogs' eyes reflect the same colour. I don't know that, but it's exactly the same as my dog's eyes.
Okay.
Greeny blue, very bright. Just it was reflecting back. If you shine a torch on it, you'd see it from 500 metres reflecting back easily. Like it was different from any kind of reflective colour that you'd see from any road signs and reflectors that you'd see in infrastructure.
Mm-hmm. Did you get the feeling it was so it was eye shine from a reflection rather than perhaps some sort of self-illumination from those eyes?
It was definitely a reflection, 100% reflection, 8 inches apart. It looks like a human head, a little bit more bulbous than a human head in comparison to its body. It didn't have just a normal noggin like a person. It had a little bit more of a bulbous head, but the jaw, I definitely noticed, was a little bit more pointed and wide, a little bit like a dinner plate, but it seemed to point straight down towards its clavicle. Right. And I went when I got back to the camp. I chucked on my hammock between the four-wheel drive and a tree, and I just thought, wow, that was wild. I just saw a yowie. And it was only when I calmed my nerves down the next day, I walked around, there was no footprints. And but I thought, no, that definitely wasn't a yowie. I thought about it, and I'm a big fan of the show as well. So I've listened to all the documents, and they're the only yowie stories I know are the ones that your team has recorded.
Yeah, right.
And it occurred to me, it wasn't a yowie. I don't know what it is, but there's things out there, and sometimes you just can't explain them.
Yeah, oh, there's all sorts of weird things out there. And I've had some interesting conversations from people in the Northern Territory of not just yowies, but other strange creatures. So that's really interesting. When you saw the jaw, the shape of the head, were you looking at it? Was it looking directly at you, or were you looking at it in profile?
So I was facing north. Well, as I can only assume that I was facing north because I was facing the lagoon outlet. So it was running west. So it was profile, completely profile. And I saw all the scrub that it had to run through, and it was probably running it through thick scrub at about 40 k's an hour, ducking and weaving. And I just went, I'm not going to take any chances. If I die, then I die. But I just reversed back. And yeah.
I think that was probably very sensible to get out of there. Definitely. Did you notice any smell?
No, and that's the thing is I am familiar with yowies. I've got a couple that I know, and I do identify them by smell. But this thing had no smell. It didn't even make a noise. But my car's very loud, so I couldn't hear it run. But when I was in the hills between the eucalypt scrub, and I was going, where am I? Thinking, where am I? Then I definitely heard it within a metre away, just tapping, hitting. It didn't make any kind of animal sounds or grunts. I just heard physical impacts.
Have you spoken to anyone maybe local from that area who might have seen something like that?
Well, I did talk to one of the traditional owners 2 days later, and I was swiftly told to go home.
Oh, interesting.
Well, they're there to make business, not scare people. So I assume that they know about them, and they thought, yeah, you're not welcome anymore. So then I went back to Calvert. It's called the Heartbreak Hotel, and I probably had 1 bar of fuel, and I was waiting for a few thousand to come into my bank account. Actually, about a lot of money for years of tax returns, and I didn't have I had probably $2, so I ended up driving northeast of Cape Calvert. It's not Calvert, sorry, it's Cape Calvert. And I turned off past a national park, and through thick scrub, I went into a creek and camped there the night, but I definitely heard taps. And it happens everywhere you go up there. You'll hear tree branches hitting branches, and it's the method that I learned is when you hear it, just knock on a pot or a pan. Just say, I'm here, and I'm just staying here. And they seem to go away. You don't get maliced by them.
Ah, was it like? Do you think those initial taps are kind of a communication from them to they can hear or sense that you're there, and they're tapping to see if you're answering?
I think they just want to know your intentions. I think that if people really went into the anatomy and the abilities of these creatures, they'd terrify themselves too much to go into the bush. But I think they're everywhere, and all you got to do is just you behave, and you don't pursue them. You never pursue them, because if they want contact, they'll come to you, as has happened to me every single encounter that I've had. If you pursue them, then you don't really know what you're getting into at all.
Yeah. Was there any other detail that I might not have asked you about this particular strange cryptid creature before we move on to the Yowie encounters, sightings?
Well, I could hear baby crocodiles right very, very close to where the encounter was at Maria Lagoon. When it was sitting down, I was looking for a spot to set up camp, but I could hear the squeaks it sounded like baby crocodiles in my mind. And I was walking towards the mangrove scrub on the side. I'm not 100% if they were mangroves, but it had that kind of shape, the trees. They could have been eucalypts, but I was a little bit rattled by the whole thing. There were baby crocodiles, and that's what was going on when I was walking over there, and then I saw the eyes shine, and I just turned around and I ran back very confidently, but I went back in my head, I went, well, there's something there, and I I've got to get away from it. I've worked with racehorses for about 10 years, so I'm good at keeping my nerves calm.
And and you were remarkably calm then from the sounds of it, because it sounds like a very strange creature. What do you think? What do you think the creature was doing? Do you think it was hunting baby crocodiles?
I think that it was sitting there and it was observing me. That's all. It was sitting there. It was positioned basically the direction I was walking in. As soon as I stopped looking towards the lagoon with my torch, it was directly in front of me, 15 to 20 metres. I knew I had just enough time thinking about land mammal running speed, just enough time to run back to the four-wheel drive. So I'm 5'11". It was the eyes were at the height of my solar plexus.
And you're thinking it's a water buffalo.
Exactly, because I've never seen anything with eyes good 8 inches apart.
Right.
It could have been 7. I don't want to exaggerate anything. 7 to 8 inches apart. A little bit bigger than golf balls.
Did you get a feeling if it was male or female?
I reckon it was a bloke. Just it was what made me think it was a bloke was it was completely non-hesitant. The instant I made an action, it already knew what it was doing, but I didn't know what it was doing. But I knew that this thing already knew what it was doing, because it ran in a complete straight line through thick scrub. It didn't have any problem getting through it. And I thought it's running towards the scrub over the hills and through the marsh. But as I said, I went back there the next day and I saw the big the water erosion cliff, gully, whatever you want to call it. And I thought maybe it was just coming to get me.
And you could see it running, but you couldn't actually hear it.
My car's loud. Yeah, it's a patrol, Nissan patrol.
Yeah. But running on 2 legs.
2 legs, super athletic, very slim, very muscular, but I couldn't see any kind of tone because it was basically a silhouette.
Was it moving its arms while it was running?
As a human would. It wasn't waving or flailing or anything, but as a human would. Long arms, about the length of my legs, so but it was very normal looking. It looks like a human except for its head and its skin and its height.
So the arms were longer in proportion to its body than, say, a human being's?
Well, I was so focused on its eyes because they were the most outstanding feature, as I was two headlights in full beam and my torch hanging out the window. I was looking at its eyes and I was just trying to work this thing out. But it was 9 foot tall, and I think if I was 9 foot tall, my arms would probably be the length of my legs.
Okay, and you didn't notice, I guess it was too dark, but you wouldn't have noticed its feet or hands.
Oh, there's grass. There's termite mounds. I could have missed that, but I was focused on its head.
And did you notice at any stage anything else on that face? Like, did it open its mouth so that you could perhaps see any light-coloured teeth?
It was a silhouette. I could see some moonlight behind it, and all I remember is the gap in its jaw. The jaw didn't point forward towards forward and down like a human's. It kind of just went straight down. I know it's very hard to imagine if you don't have a picture of it or experience, but I knew straight away it's not a yowie.
Yeah.
Well, I figured out the next day. I thought about it, and it's not a yowie.
Well, when you get it some time, later on you said you might be able to send me a sketch of, as close as you can sketch to it. I mean, and if you see anything online that's sort of similar, send that through to me too, so I can get a better picture of what you were seeing.
I will. I'll make an effort on Sunday and I'll email something through.
That'd be cool. All right, so let's move on to your 2 yowie. Well, you actually said you had contact with 2 yowies, but over the space of a couple of weeks.
At least 2.
Yeah.
At least 2.
Okay, so tell me about that.
Just because of the social dynamic of my town, I'm going to tell you the description of where I was. I'm not going to disclose any actual locations.
Oh, that's okay. So
So
you just said it was somewhere near Alice Springs. That's close enough for me.
yeah, I ended up full moon again, and I hunt at night. So I'm a crossbow shooter, and I've always been an archer with traditional bows. I've got a Australian-made stick bow. It's about 70 inches long, and it was a full moon. I ended up walking out. Basically, where I ended up, there's a fence, barbed wire fence, and it's about 5 foot high, and then 2 meters, not even 2 meters, further in from the to the track. Sorry, further in from the track, there's another fence, exactly the same, running parallel. Two fences. I don't know why. It's very strange, but they've put two fences there. And I was carrying my longbow in my left hand, and I had about 3 arrows, holding it in the same hand as my bow. I walked along through some salt bush and scrub. I walked around, and I was barefoot. It's a lot quieter if you're barefoot. Or normally, if I'm not barefoot, I'll just put socks over my shoes. But this time I was barefoot. So I spent about 15 minutes walking around looking for rabbits in the moonlight. There was nothing. And then I walked back, and walking towards the trees which divide the salt bush swampland from the road. There's like a little bit of a eucalypt forest with lots of fallen trunks and dead wood. And I saw a little guy. He was huge in comparison to a human, but it was either sitting, and it was right in front of me. It was 3 meters in front of me. It was either sitting with its legs straight forward so that I couldn't see it, or it was cross-legged, but I think it was sitting in an L shape with its feet towards me. I saw a very round head. It was very hairy. It had very wide shoulders, very round head. I imagine it would probably be 150 kilos. And as soon as I walked up to it, I just immediately said, "Oi, you settle down," because I saw a human or something that was sneaking up on me that could have easily dealt with me without hesitation, but it was so close and it was in a very non-threatening pose. I was confident enough to as I said, I just went, "Oi, you settle down." I turned to my right. I walked to my right 3 meters, and I realised that I was walking up towards an absolutely massive beast. It was about, I think it was sitting down, and it was still 5 foot tall. As I walked into it, it just seemed to dissipate, just seemed to fade out, just seemed to fade into non-existence the closer I got to it. But for some reason, I felt like I was worried about this little thing more than I was worried about the big thing, because I was a lot more comfortable walking towards this huge thing, which its shoulders would have been probably 80 centimeters across. It had a head, a bit like a one of those 5 litre jugs of water, that kind of size, you know. And anyway, so I ended up walking back across these two barbed wire fences that run strangely parallel. And so I crossed the fences, and then I shot an arrow into the road sign. It wasn't out of, saying, "Leave me alone, I'm armed," or anything. I left an arrow, which it's an aluminium arrow with orange and white feathers, 3 of them. I left it into the road sign. The back of the arrow was pointing to the direction that I was basically driving back, going home. And I got in my car and I drove home, and I kind of tried not to think about it because I didn't want to second guess myself. I didn't want to doubt myself from that experience. It was so wild. Then I realised driving to work about half a week later that there were two little teepees in the river crossing. I drive across a dry riverbed full of sand. It's about 60 metres across, 50 metres across. And there were 2 teepees. One of them was about 1.5 feet tall. It was a round teepee structure made with sticks, and it had bark to cover the gaps. And then there was another one that was probably less than a foot tall right next to it, exactly the same. And it looked beautiful. And I wish I took photos, but I didn't. And I immediately just thought, oh, there's some kids getting creative out bush. And I liked it. I thought, well, I used to make teepees and things in the creek when I was a kid out here. So that these teepees stayed, nobody moved, and eventually the wind blew them over, blew the bark off, and the sticks were still on the ground. They weren't cut or anything. They weren't even broken. They were just naturally, it was like somebody just looked for the right size stick to stick in the ground. And then the smells started happening. So I started noticing super musky, not a dirty smell, but just an unwashed smell, like a greasy hair smell. And that's on the 6-acre block that I live on, which is exactly 400 metres away from this river. One night I was out. I like to be out at night, just me. And I started hearing knocks, and I only recognised the communication because of listening to your videos. So I went, oh, okay, so it's tapping, it's trying to communicate. I've done karate, martial arts my whole life. So I basically did a snap kick, or you call it a roundhouse, but I just call it a snap kick, at about 6 foot, so head height. I hit the tree and it knocked really, really hard. I did it once, and the thing started, the Yowie started knocking back. And then I felt like I tried to outdo it. I did it again harder, and then it did it again harder. It started knocking trees from probably about 120 meters away. And then I did the stupidest thing. I started belting my chest like a gorilla, and he didn't like it. He went off. He went absolutely off. The property next to the other property is it's an old cattle lot, and there's sea containers, there's shipping containers, and this thing was screaming, roaring, and beating the absolute hell out of this container. It sounded like it was just pummeling it with its fists like an ape would, and everything went silent. All you could hear, and it was very loud. So we're talking 200 meters away. I think it moved away further than it was when I was communicating with it. It went over to this container. There's a couple of 40-foot containers there, and it just started pummeling it and screeching and screaming.
Was anybody else out there? Did anyone else hear it?
Oh, this was probably 11 o'clock at night. You do things at night out here because it's just so darn hot. It's only pleasant on a very cool day or at night. So I was out at night, maybe between 10 or 11, and it was just pummeling this container.
But does anybody live in the nearby vicinity who might have heard that as well?
Everywhere. There's neighbours every 100 metres, 100 metres centred from the houses in the centre of the block.
Yeah,
every
right.
100 metres, there's a neighbour.
So yep. Nobody else heard that?
It's not something that you talk about with people out here.
Ah, right, okay.
I've been waiting a long time to let this out.
Is it a taboo subject up there?
It's kind of, you won't get popular. You will not. It's not like it's a superstitious topic. You will not be popular talking about it.
Because people might think you're crazy? Or
people know about it. People know about it, but the attitude of this place is you stay in line and you do what you do and you don't rock the boat. It's just what it is.
Is that amongst the Aboriginal people, or is it amongst the white members of the community, or is it both?
I'm talking about, it's both. It's both, and it's the same up in, I think, just about anywhere in NT.
And do you get ostracised and shunned if you do bring that subject up?
That's a possibility. That's a possibility. Attitude is everything. You can find a circle that you could talk about it with, and people would be interested. But Yeah, you get picked on, guaranteed. So you just don't rock the boat.
So what else happened that night after you heard that the carrying on with the shipping container? Did it just stop that, or did you continue on this kind of communication? Or
It went for about 5 minutes. It went on for about 5 minutes, and I swiftly went to bed. I was so rattled by it. I was unable to decide what the noise was coming from because it was so big and it was so strange to me. Hearing maybe a little bit like a gorilla, but more like a man, just yelling and pummeling the hell out of the shipping container. It was overloaded for the senses, and I just went to bed.
yeah, I'm not surprised. Did it sound like? So it most reminded you of a man, but not quite a man.
It obviously didn't have a dialect. It could have had the same vocal cords as a man, but it was the aggression sounded very non-human. It sounded like it had no tap. It was just going off.
Was that before or after you saw the two beings?
This was a week later.
That was oh, that's right. You said it was about a week later.
There was a few days between seeing the beings, leaving an arrow in the sign, then seeing the teepees. Then it was about a week later, and it was at night. I didn't see anything. Like, it was all just audible. It was very audible. It was sound here travels for. You can hear someone talking a kilometre away, and if the wind's coming, then you think the next door neighbour's having a party, and it's 2 kilometres away.
Yeah, right.
Oh, that's a bit of an exaggeration, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so just take me back to when you saw those two creatures. You spot the smaller one. So the smaller one was seated on the ground in an L shape, you said.
I could see its torso, but I couldn't see anything from its hips up. So I assume it was, and because it was a very dark colour, I think it was actually black. I think the other one was brown, dirty brown colour, but its legs were not visible, so it must have had its feet pointed towards me in an L shape, sitting.
Okay, and so did you have the torchlight on them?
I didn't have a torch.
It was just under
I didn't have a
moon?
torch, and this is a point that I want to make. When you want an encounter, it's better to be as primitive as possible. You get a lot more respect. I didn't even have shoes. I was carrying a longbow, some arrows, and I didn't even have a t-shirt on.
So in the light of the full moon, you look up ahead. How far away was the first one that you saw?
It was a couple of meters. It was right in front of me. It was right in front of me, and the next 2 steps I would have walked into it. So I just said, "Oh, you settle down," and I turned to the right, and then the other one was probably about 4 to 5 meters in front, and I kept walking, just mindlessly, kept walking towards it. All I knew is I didn't want to walk towards the little one. I started walking towards the big one, and I didn't feel any malice or any panic walking towards it. I knew what I was seeing, but I knew that this was the better one to walk to. And as I walked into it, it just dissipated. It just faded. That's all I can say.
That's really interesting. So the little one, you said, had a round shaped head. Could you see any eyes or any make out any features on the face?
Not at all. Not at all. I knew it had. I knew it looked really cute. To be honest, it looked like it had a round volleyball fuzzy head. Something that you want to give a scruff on the head. It looks really cute, but I didn't want to go near it.
So you could see the fact that it was hairy, but you couldn't actually make out the features on the face, any of the eyes or the mouth.
I reckon it had quite short, not short, but maybe inch-long hair, and I could see fuzz, and the fuzz seemed to be more erect than going downwards, like human hair. It seemed to have, seemed to look, fuzzy.
Yeah. So you're looking at kind of a fuzzy round head and shoulders. Did you say you noticed the shoulders?
Big shoulders. Yeah, big shoulders. Like, would have been probably 60 centimeters apart, big shoulders, big arms. You could
What
see
were the arms doing?
they were drooped on the ground with its legs. I couldn't see any hands or anything because I think he might have had it on his thighs or her thighs.
Uh-huh.
The other one had long hair, long. I'm quite sure it was brown, a dirty brown color. I could see some light reflecting off of it, but the other one probably had 15 centimeter long hair, and it was all downwards.
Before we move on to that big one, because I want to go into that description a little bit more too, but I'm just trying to get the whole picture for the little one. I'm wondering if you were looking right at it and you didn't notice eyes, I'm wondering, did it have its eyes closed?
There probably wouldn't have been anything to reflect back from its eyes. We are talking scrub. There's a lot of discarded tires and things in that area. It would be very easy to just walk right up to one of these things with the other distractions taking away your ability to notice it effectively. But it was completely black. There was no reflection on the eyes or anything. No,
Okay. Did it make any movement?
it just sat there. It sat there,
And
cool as a
no
cucumber.
noise? Sorry, it
No
just
noise.
sat there cool as a cucumber.
Yep, sat there cool as a cucumber, but I don't want to go near it.
And looking straight at you.
It looks like a child. It looks really cute, really cute.
And looking in your direction.
Sitting right in front of me, a couple of meters away. Yep.
Yeah. Didn't move its head towards perhaps the other creature.
The other one was facing towards me at a 90-degree angle from this little guy, and he seemed to be maybe kneeling or squatting, and it was still 5-6 foot easy. It's kneeling and squatting.
Okay.
The shoulders would have been at least a meter apart. It was huge.
And I'm finding it really interesting that it didn't give you any feeling of fear. I'm wondering, it sounds a bit woo-woo, but I'm wondering if it was trying to guide you away from what's potentially a little one, a baby or a juvenile, and somehow interfering with your mind and getting you to not want to go near that little one, come towards me instead as a distraction.
Oh, there's possibilities, but I'm not going to say this was a child. Who knows how old it is? It could be 100 years old.
Could be.
It could be fully developed. Could be an adult. Could be as old as a big one. Oh, I couldn't tell you.
But the feeling you got from it was that it was smaller and that it was cute, and
Yeah, it was adorable. Well,
Yeah.
I couldn't make out features, but it was a little fuzzy guy, you know. Standing up, it might have been 5-6 foot, but sitting down, just it looks like it did.
Okay. And so then you turn away 90 degrees, and then you notice that there's a much bigger one there.
Yeah, I got a meter in before I realised there was a bigger one, but I just kept walking.
You kept
And,
walking. It didn't make you stop in your tracks and go, "What the hell is that?"
Something that you learn around big animals is the worst thing you can do is panic, and you just have to accept that what is, and if you can rectify the danger that's around you, then you're in a much better position than if you make any kind of uncouth reaction or movement. You can upset things, and well, I've been trampled by racehorses, and I've never had a bad injury because I've been able to tune in with the horses.
So you've started walking in the opposite direction from the little one, and then about a meter in, you notice this giant creature. That's
right.
Did you see? Were you able to make out any of the facial features?
I could see some because this one was a lot lighter. It was, I think it was a brown colour, and I could see some moonlight reflecting off, and I think it had probably a huge overbite, like an ape,
Mm-hmm.
and probably a longer head. And I don't think it was pointed. I think it was a little bit squared off at the crown.
And were you able to make out the eyes?
Well, the eyes are one of the hardest things to see in the night because the shadows kind of all point towards where the eyes should be, but you don't actually see the eyes. The eyes are always shadowed.
Yeah.
With most creatures, except for a rabbit, which they have enormous bulbs protruding their head.
With a creature that's potentially got deeply set eyes and a heavy brow ridge, then the shadow cast by that is quite significant.
That's right.
Yeah. And you said that the hair was quite long, same length from like head to toe.
Well, it was kneeling, but I reckon about 15 centimeters. With any creature, you look at the eyes. It's just what you're programmed to do as a living, walking being.
Yeah.
You look at the eyes, and same with if you're a drawer, if you're an artist, the first thing that they teach you is to not start drawing from the eyes. It's just the natural way to observe.
All right, so
you look at the eyes.
Yeah. That's a good point. How far away from the little creature was it?
I'd say 7 meters, because I walked up to this thing. It was a couple of meters away, 3 steps. I would have walked into it. I turned around and I remember it was about probably five or so steps, and I walked into it and it dissipated.
And was it looking directly at you?
Yeah, it was comfortably resting or kneeling or sitting.
So kneeling up or sitting down on kneeling, but sitting on its heels.
It could have had one knee up, but it did seem to have its arms not drooping down to the ground like the little one. It had them bent. So I think it might have been kneeling and had its arms resting on its thighs.
Uh-huh. You walk towards it a meter, and you kept walking, and it faded out in front of your eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This sounds bizarre.
Oh, you're not the first person. No, exactly. And you're not the first person to say it. So it's something that we do come across. So that's why I'm actually really interested in what happened there and what you observed.
Yeah, it had complete control of not its physical body, but its spiritual body, and I wouldn't doubt that this thing could probably walk through a wall. After seeing that, I think these things have uncanny abilities that we can't even fathom. But in the flesh, it can pound a sea container, and it can use its hands. It can make tools. It can do everything that a man can do. But they're not all man. They're a little bit of a cryptid, a little bit of a myth.
So you turn around, you see that the big one. Did you kept moving towards it? Because you said you felt like you were almost compelled to move towards it away from the other one. Is that an accurate description of how that played out?
My mind's nearly turned off. I was moving towards it and I didn't feel threatened by it. The other one startled me a little bit, so that could have been why I was very hesitant to go in that direction. But I knew ultimately I had to go to the car and get out of there.
Yeah. And so when the big one, as you're approaching, it starts to fade out. Did it start like from the top down, or was it a kind of a uniform fade out?
I reckon it was a little bit more right shoulder to left shoulder. It didn't just like disappear like you snap your fingers and it's gone. It was and it was a very natural kind of fading out. Like it's something you could imagine it could do and you wouldn't even notice it. If you didn't know it was there, you wouldn't notice it. It was very smooth. Like smoke, a little bit like smoke.
When it faded out, did you actually walk up to the spot where it was?
I walked nearly straight through it.
Right. And you didn't feel anything when you did?
Oh, look, my adrenaline was amped. I just mindlessly walked through it.
And did you turn around to look at the smaller one at all, or you just kept walking?
It's one of those things where you actually protect yourself by thinking, I didn't see that, It doesn't exist. I'm just going to keep carrying on about my day.
Yeah. Have you tried to sketch those two beings? I'd love to see or found something online that looks similar.
The little one wouldn't be hard to draw because it looks like one of those fuzzy baby gorilla teddies that you buy at the zoo shop.
Yeah, yeah.
And the big one was, I don't want to sound ridiculous, but it looks just like the Bigfoot from the old TV series.
Oh, the Harry and the Hendersons. Is that the one?
That's the one.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's not ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. And it didn't make any noise or smell at that stage.
They only make noises when they want your attention.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like you were almost in a bit of a daze.
It's not a daze. It's adrenaline where, plan A, when that fails, you go on automatic because you don't have a plan B. So you do the most simple, you do the most simple thing that you would do instinctively because you already know you're in danger. If you've ever nearly been in a car accident or something, or had trouble going fast on a road, you know that you just calm yourself down, you slow down, and you ride it out.
You were going to then explain something after that, just before.
Yeah.
So you've.
Yep. So a lot of smells. There was one that I said, see, I've got an air conditioner unit that comes straight from the paddock into my bedroom and just suck. It's a swampy. It just sucks air and it goes straight into the bedroom. And so the first one, I got the greasy hair smell, and for ages I thought it was the neighbour's goats, but it's not. It's so pungent and it just saturates the environment. The smell. That one smelled just like a unwashed but healthy, very healthy person animal. It had quite a greasy human smell to it, somebody who doesn't wash. Then there was another smell that came through, just smelled like raw sewage and dead meat, and that was hanging around for a few days.
Right, for a few days. Do you notice it when you're inside the house or outside?
Both, it's everywhere.
Right. Do you live with anyone? Does anybody else notice the smell, or is it just you on your own?
People here, they're not ignorant. People believe in these things. They know about them. We just don't talk about it. And it's one of those things where, like, you talk about it and people will shun you very quickly, and you might even get aggressed. But suddenly somebody's TV explodes and the other bloke says, "Oh, it sounds like your house is haunted." So when the occasion arises, then people acknowledge it, but it's not a topic we talk about.
Yeah, okay. So they might have noticed a smell but haven't commented on it or just dismissed it.
Yeah, we don't dwell on anything here. Things happen. And we just walk right past it, basically.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Well, it must be a bit of a burden for you then, carrying these experiences around and not being able to share them with anyone or go over them with anyone.
Oh, only the traumatic ones, but everybody's got to dive into the deep end, and it takes its toll on you. But if you get over the trauma, you can allow these things to happen in your life, and you're not affected by it.
Mm-hmm.
If anything, it's a teacher. You can learn about the bush, and you realise the bush loves you. You can communicate with whatever you want to communicate with. The birds tell you things. The birds tell you where there's water. They tell you when to leave. I mean, even the ants bite you, and they're injecting you with phytoacids. Phytoacids are an anti-necrotic. They dissolve necrotic tissue, so they keep you alive. And people have to really dissolve their attitude of the fear of the bush and just walk in the light. Walk in the light and just bring love when you walk, and you get love back.
Yeah, that's a nice thought. So how do you feel when you're out? You're still going out hunting at night. How are you feeling when you're out there by yourself now?
I don't hunt as a schedule. I hunt when I think, my dog food's going to waste. He needs some meat and bones, so I go look for a rabbit. Um, and I'm fine. You always get a warning. You know, the bush isn't out there to come in and eat you, and you're not just going to disappear. You always get a warning. You ignore that warning, you probably get another warning. You be disrespectful, then things can get pear-shaped.
Was there anything else that you might not have mentioned that you wanted to add? It's been absolutely fascinating talking to you. I'm so interesting. I believe you. What an
Thank you.
incredible. Yeah, I do. And I'm fascinated by what you've seen, particularly all of it, but particularly that strange creature and also the fade out, because we do hear it from some people, and I'm fascinated as to what's going on there, how they managed to do that, whether it's got to do with raising your electromagnetic vibration, whether it's stepping into through a portal into another dimension.
Sometimes I think they're just sometimes I think they're there and they're just manipulating your perception, but they're really there.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I get the vibe of that. I think they're able to mind control you if they want, but they're not jerks. You meet one that's a jerk, but he's probably going to want to be left alone. And when I was in Borroloola, I was staying on Aboriginal land, and I was just squatting there. I found a tree trunk, and I used to have a swag ready on the roof of the car, so I could jump on the swag if a buffalo comes, a dog could go underneath. But I was in a hammock, and I heard this scream that came from a mountain. It's the same size and shape as one of the Glasshouse Mountains, 1 kilometre away from me.
Mm-hmm.
And this scream, it was similar to Tyrannosaurus Rex from Jurassic Park, but it had a very human malice to it. And the hairs stood up on my neck, but I was in the hammock bit, but I felt sedated by it. I was that fearful. I thought if I just stay still, nothing's going to happen. And they're everywhere, as people say, they are everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
I forgot one thing. So I got a Leupold LTO tracker HD2 thermal optic, and between the week of it was after the Yowie pummeled the container, I was looking out about 110 metres away off the patio, and when I go outside, I have a ciggy or whatever, I have a look around, see if there's any rabbits with my thermal optic, and I saw them both. The big one was about, they're glowing bright orange. This is a really good optic. He was glowing, he was about 5 foot off the ground, and the other one was about 3 to 4 foot off the ground. They seemed to both be sitting cross-legged, and they were behind there's a line of steel bathtubs and scrap metal. I looked at them for about half an hour, and all that was going through my head is that I'm just losing my judgment of what I'm actually seeing, and I'm not actually seeing it. But the next day, I realised, no, they definitely were the Yowies that had the orange silhouettes in my Leupold, and they were sitting about 20 centimetres apart. The little one was on the left, and the big one was on the right. They were both sitting down behind a steel bathtub, and they were just looking at me. They didn't move. I was looking through my thermal optic.
Same area as when you saw the other two, or a different spot?
This is on my property.
On your property, right? Yep.
Yeah. It was a couple of days after the Yowie pummeled the container.
Ah, yeah. Okay. And so were they the two that you saw through that? Did you get the feeling that they were the same two as that you saw the last time, or perhaps different beings?
They were definitely the same two. They were the same two, and they were the same ones that made the teepees.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'm not sure if they followed me because I put an arrow in the sign, or if they followed me because they were intrigued by me. I don't know why they followed me, but they followed me. They hung around for probably about a month. I didn't have any other sightings of them, but I could always smell them. And there were 3 smells. There was A greasy smell. There was a raw sewage, dead meat smell, and there was another greasy smell, not as pungent.
And you haven't seen them lately? Because that was, you said back in June, didn't you?
June was the cat. I'll call it.
Oh,
the
sorry.
cat
Yeah,
man.
you're right. No, November
But,
2020
June
was the Yowies.
Yeah, well, like I'm not very good with my calendar, but I know by the moons.
Yep.
And so November, it was a full moon.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool.
June
So,
was.
so now it's almost a year later. Have you seen those two since that time?
Well, in that area, if you go far enough, there's a lot of snaps branches in it, and I know the telltale signs of Yowie straight away. I've never seen any scat or footprints, but I've definitely seen good 15 centimetre trees just snapped in half. And these are places where, if it's scrubby enough, they'll go there. I don't think a water source is even relevant, but if it's scrubby enough, then they can blend in and they like it.
Yeah, well, you stay safe out there, mate. Let me know let me know if you see them again. I'd love to hear about them if you see them again.
Oh yeah, I'd love to see them again.
Fingers crossed then. What did you think of that, people? Wasn't that fascinating? Interestingly, I was listening to a recent Sasquatch Chronicles episode, and Wes's witness mentions a bipedal creature with a cat-shaped head too. If you want to check that out, it was Sasquatch Chronicles episode 827 at around the 30-31 minute mark. Wes mentioned in that episode that he's had about 6 reports from the Four Corners area in the US of a being with a cat-shaped head. Now, the descriptions of these beings are really similar to today's report from the Northern Territory. Very tall, slender build, like seemingly quite skinny, very agile, very fast, with the head of a lion or a cat of some kind. Very strange. Wes also mentioned in that episode that he's getting more and more reports of strange entities and cryptids other than your usual Bigfoot Sasquatch report. And he was wondering why, and I thought that's a good question. I'm wondering why too. Is it because people are paying more attention to strange creatures? Is the veil between dimensions thinner, and therefore we're able to see beings that were already there but we weren't able to see them in the past but we can now? Is there something going on between the ascension of the planet from 3D to 5D and that's why we're seeing these strange cryptids now? Or is it just that the internet is making it easier for people to come forward? There's more people reporting, so people get a little bit braver and feel that they can come forward and report what they saw, whereas before they might have been too afraid of ridicule. People are also able to do some research on the internet and find similar reports to the strange thing that they saw. So maybe this makes them feel less alone, less crazy, and more inclined to share what they saw. What do you think? Let me know. Please send me an email if you've got any ideas what's going on out there. Where are these beings coming from? Are they here all the time, or are we only just able to see them now? Lots of questions. I got no answers. I hope somebody has some out there. Remember, if you've seen a Yowie or any other weird creature out there, or you've had an unusual experience with ghosts or UFOs or anything strange, kooky or spooky, I would love to hear your story, and I'm sure the listeners would too. So get in touch with me via yowiecentral@gmail.com or via the Yowie Central Facebook group. Well, that's it for this week, folks. Yowie Central will be back next Wednesday. So you stay safe out there and I'll catch you next week.
Out in the cold, out in the dark, something's lurking at the edge of the park. People be warned, people beware, there's a storm on the rise and it's covered in hair. Hear him cry, hear him howl, looking for someone to disembowel. Claws like a hook, eyes like coal, feet so big they're gonna crush your soul. They call him Sasquatch. Can't see under the darkness behind the tree. Is he a monster? Is he a man? Is he a demon under Satan's command? Hear him cry, hear him howl, looking for someone to disembowel. Claws like a hook, eyes like coal, feet so big they're gonna crush your soul. They call him Sasquatch. Yeah! You might be rich, you pretty young thing, better hide the glint of your diamond ring. Your fancy jacket won't be worth a dime when you're sucking the blood right out of your spine. Hear him cry, hear him howl, looking for someone to